Hey guys, this is Matt Brunet, and welcome to Movie News Weekly, hosted by FilmBook. Now, before we begin, let's take a look at what we got in this week's news, which includes a really low February start, Sony's really losing money, The Batman won't direct The Batman, lost a director but earned an actor, Behind the Mafia, the day when the animators won, Imagine This Movie, directing the second Conjuring spinoff, From Trolls to Legos, and yes, this will exist. So with that said, let's get things started. As February enters, theaters seem to be as vacant as Trump's inauguration. Split stayed in first place at the box office during the weekend, making only almost $15 million. Surprisingly, with that low number, it still managed to surpass the new movies of this week, including the new horror movie Rings, which began very low with only $13 million. After that are the other movies from the previous week that have to step down to make room for Rings, including A Dog's Purpose with almost $11 million, Hidden Figures with $10 million, and La La Land with about $7.5 million. Meanwhile, the other new movie of this week, The Space Between Us, began as a massive bomb by starting with almost $4 million. Ahead of it includes Resident Evil, The Final Chapter with $4.5 million, and both Sing and Lion with about $4 million each. Okay, I'm not sure, but I think Sony Pictures has some problems. The giant corporation Sony announced that it has taken a write-down of almost $1 billion for the failing film division. They stated, as a result of revising the future profitability projection for the Pictures segment, Sony Corporation recorded an impairment charge against the goodwill of the Pictures segment of 112.1 billion yen, which in US money would be $962 million, in the third quarter ended on December 31st, 2016. This non-cash impairment charge is included within the operation income loss. They believe that the reason for the loss would come from the market and its declining home entertainment sales. However, despite the issues, they will not give up on the film unit. We, the management of Sony Corp and Sony Entertainment, take the fact of recording a substantial impairment charge very seriously. But make no mistake, Sony Corp's commitment to Sony Pictures Entertainment remains unchanged. It's simple. We quit The Batman. Ben Affleck announced that he will no longer be directing The Batman, but he still remains in the project as both the star and producer. He mentioned that the reason was to make the best decision for both the project and has nothing to do with his recent film Live by Night. Affleck stated, "Performing this role demands focus, passion, and the very best performance I can give. It has become clear that I cannot do both jobs to the level they require. Together with the studio, I have decided to find a partner in a director who will collaborate with me of this massive film. I am still in this, and we are making it, but we are currently looking for a director. I remain extremely committed to this project and look forward to bringing this to life for fans around the world." He will now be looking for a new director for the project. Speaking of losing directors, Anthony Fuqua was reported to quit the reboot of Scarface. The reason for his departure was because both Sony and Denzel Washington are in an emergency to quickly get a sequel to The Equalizer made, which resulted in conflicts with Fuqua's schedule. It was not an easy decision for him, since he did try to cooperate with Universal to see if he can stay as the director, but he did put in a lot of work onto the script of The Equalizer 2. However, not all hope is lost for the project. Even if they lost a director, they did manage to get Diego Luna of Rogue One: A Star Wars Story to star in the feature. Universal is currently looking for a new director, as the production is set to start this spring.
They're gonna make you an offer you can't refuse.
HBO Films took a screenplay from the 2015 Blacklist by Andrew Farrote and will be turning it into a feature film called Francis and the Godfather. The movie will be telling the true story of how Francis Ford Coppola took the Mario Puzo novel and turned it into the legendary 1972 feature film. HBO and Echo Lake Entertainment have already brought in Peter Bart, the former executive at Paramount who worked with Coppola during that time, to be a consultant. Nowadays, The Godfather is remained by many to be one of the greatest movies of all time, along with its sequel, The Godfather Part 2. The first film won 3 Academy Awards, including Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor for Marlon Brando, and Best Picture. It is time that some animators can finally rest and move on. The case against major animation studios is finally over when the Walt Disney Company reached a settlement for $100 million in a class action lawsuit that stated that many studios during the late 2000s and early 2010s were purposely fixing animators' wages while also agreeing not to poach each other's employees. The defendants include Walt Disney Animation Studios, Pixar Animation Studios, Lucasfilms, Image Movers Digital, DreamWorks Animation, Sony Pictures Imageworks, Sony Pictures Animation, and Blue Sky Studios. The case was first filed on December 2014 by Robert Nitsch, who was at DreamWorks Animation at the time, and then a couple more were added to the list of plaintiffs like Image Movers engineer and artist, respectively, David Wentworth and Georgia Cano. Last year, the companies one by one bowed out of the case with a settlement, including Blue Sky, then Sony, and then DreamWorks. From Christian and Anastasia to John and Yoko, Michael DeLuna, the producer of films like Captain Phillips, The Social Network, and 50 Shades of Grey, will be working with Yoko Ono in a movie that will focus on the relationship of Ono and the late John Lennon. The two met in an art gallery in 1966 and ended up married in 1969. Just a year before the Beatles officially split up. The couple will later be known to be advocates of peace and release albums like Double Fantasy, which was released a few weeks before Lennon's murder. The movie will be written by the Theory of Everything's Anthony McCartan, and he will be joining the producing crew including DeLuna, Ono, and Josh Bratman. That old woman will still have to take orders from more than just God. Corin Hardy has been announced to be the director of the Conjuring 2 spinoff, The Nun, which will be written by James Wan and Gary Dauberman. After the big success The Conjuring 2 had at the box office with $320 million on a $40 million budget, New Line went and announced they would make their second Conjuring spinoff after Annabelle. Originally, Hardy was supposed to be the director of the Crow remake, but had to let go of the project last March due to the uncertain future of the company Relativity. But there have been talks that he could still return to that production. There has yet to be a cast or a release date confirmed for The Nun. Yes, everything is awesome, but is this guy awesome too? Mike Mitchell, who recently directed the DreamWorks hit Trolls, has been brought in by Warner Animation Group in order to direct the Lego Movie 2. The task was originally assigned by the first movie's animation co-director Chris McKay, but he decided to instead direct the Lego Batman movie. The LEGO Movie directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller will be staying for the project as producers and writers of the first draft, while the creator of BoJack Horseman, Raphael Bob Waskberg, will rewrite the script. This will not be the first time that Mitchell will be working on a sequel of someone else's work. His directorial credits include Shrek Forever After, Alvin and the Chipmunks Chipwrecked, and the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water. The LEGO Movie will be making a comeback in theaters on February 2019. Might as well cap it all off with something that I wish I was joking, but this will apparently be real. Sci-Fi and The Asylum have officially greenlit the 5th installment of the Sharknado film franchise, with Ian Ziering and Tara Reid returning as the stars. Before I get into the plot of the new one, let me refresh you with what happened last time. The first was the Sharknado attacking Los Angeles. In the second one, actually called The Second One, it attacked New York City. In the third one, called Oh Hell No, it attacked the east side of America from Washington, D.C. to Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. In the fourth, called The Fourth Awakens, it went to attack the entire country. Where do we go from there? Well, the heroes now have to literally save the world from the evil Sharknado. The franchise's director Anthony C. Ferrante will be returning, and Scotty Mullen has been hired to write the script. And that's all I've got for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to head on down to film-book.com for all the latest movie and TV news, along with their columns on the box office and their theatrical release schedule. Also, you can follow them on whatever social media you'd like. And while you're at it, you can follow me on my YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter if you're more into stuff like animation, Disney, and my weird sense of humor. If you were watching this on YouTube, then hit that like button and come subscribe to us, and also leave a little comment on what you think on the news this week. If you were listening to this on a podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, then don't forget to rate and review what you just heard. Tune in next time for another round of Movie News Weekly, and until next week, see you later, dudes!